Got a new product to tell you guys about today. I want to give credit where credit is due. I'm following the recipe from Father Fish. He's a fish guy. He's been doing it for longer than any of the rest of us. And I'm adapting his methodology for aquatic insect tanks. And I'm going to be offering the soils that I make for you. This right here is a blend of ingredients that I'll talk more about in the product description itself on the sales page. But this is going to be an inch layer of soil down on the bottom of the tank. And then on top of that, a 2-inch sand cap. And I'm going to be offering this to you as well as the sand that goes on top of it so that you have everything you need for the foundation of your aquatic insect tank. This is a 10-gallon tank, the most common size, and I'm specifically creating substrate amounts for this most common tank size. And I think that will get a lot of people started, give them the confidence to venture into this newish sector of the hobby. This is a 6-quart container. I've got about 5 quarts of liquid in there. I'm going to start to mix that in there to create a mud-like slurry for the bottom of the aquatic insect tank. It's definitely helpful to have these kinds of bins on hand, this 6-quart one and then this 16-quart one. I dump the soil in there and then I dump 5 quarts of the water into it. And the goal is this, what they say is a concrete or a wet concrete kind of consistency. It's got a little bit of a jiggle to it. Mud pie. Nice to have one of these around too. And we're going to let that settle for about 2 hours so all the peat moss kind of gets saturated uniformly and all of the ingredients marry. And then we will slop it down an inch high in the bottom of the tank here, which will then be followed again by a 2-inch sand cap to keep the soil from sort of percolating up into the water column. It's been a couple hours, and so I noticed that this is all starting to look uniform in consistency, not changing much beyond how it looks now. And so I'm dropping it into the tank here and I'm going to level it out. There's going to be some mistakes made and we will be rinsing the sides of this after we pat it down into a uniform 1-inch layer. Jesse, that's a nice haircut.
Thank you.
He said I should have mounted the camera over there, and so he's going to hold the camera for a minute and I'm going to talk.
Little mud pie.
Yep. Just the way Grandma used to make them. or your first girlfriend back in the schoolyard.
Yeah.
You'd eat anything for that girl, wouldn't you, Jesse?
What schoolyard were you in?
All right, back it up. That's enough spoon action. The whole point of you holding the phone for a second was because you said I should be in the video.
You should be in the video.
And that's about enough of that. Thanks, Jesse.
Nope. Hey, nice hoodie.
Thanks. It's my Shapes in Nature hoodie. Have you heard of Shapes in Nature?
Nuh-uh.
Oh, it's your company. That's
Yeah.
right.
I don't know who that is.
I see why you wanted to hold the video now. It's because I was wearing one of your products.
There's always a hidden agenda in there.
It's really all that I wear anyway.
So when you make mud pie, is this pretty much what you do as well?
Well, really, this is about 1 inch of substrate now. We have a little bit left over from this unit, and that could be frozen or dried out and put in a bag again. I'm pretty happy with the volume. Maybe I need a little bit more in this corner over here, but this is the deal right here. We're gonna get a spray bottle and spray down the sides here because I made a little bit of a mess, just like old April did, your old friend, April.
I'll have you know, I don't know who April is.
And so, got some soil there. I'm gonna spray down the spray bottle. It works better if I'm not looking through the camera, I guess. See what I'm doing. Looking good. Got 1 inch of soil down in the bottom. Time to cap it with 2 inches of sand. You notice that we're in a different setting now, and the reason for that is this tank was going to get very heavy, and I was working at putting it together down at the barn, and instead it's going to be in the house. And of course, once it has water in it, along with the soil and sand, very, very heavy. So put it where you want it. It'll make your life a lot easier. So you can be as picky as you want to be about how level the sand is, the sand layer above the soil layer. I paid more attention to this side here because I consider this the front of the tank. Next step, now that the sand cap is on there, is to start putting some water in, and then plants. And as we've demonstrated in other videos, when it comes time to add water into your aquatic insect tank, putting a plate down or some other sort of flat structure underneath where the water is will prevent your sand from getting messed up. You definitely don't want the soil layer to percolate up through the sand layer. And so we're just starting to rise above the sand, and a little bit too much current in there, possibly because I see that a little hole is being dug out. We can, of course, fix that later. So you can see with this slow trickle method, the water stays amazingly clear. That's how you want to do it. As the water continues to rise, I've been taking some cuttings from this tank that has been overgrowing. I've only had that tank for a couple months, but the plants are doing great. And starting to pop the cut stems of these plants down into the sand cap, just about an inch down, right above the soil layer still. And this tank's going to be very, very nice looking. Isn't it just amazing how clear the water is using the plate method here? A little bit of film may pop up here on the surface, sort of an oily sheen from my hands or from any residue that might be on the tank. That can be soaked up by placing a sheet of paper towel or pieces of paper towel on top just for a second till they saturate, pull them off, put another one on there, just a few repeated attempts, and that will get rid of the foam and the oil residue that might be on the surface. And you can do that anytime. That oil will sometimes be created by new bacteria and such that are colonizing the tank, but it doesn't have to be removed. I just like the way it looks without it, and it's always an evolving process. This tank over here is a couple months old, and I've just been so happy with it. Still got a lot more work to do, putting some plants in. I trimmed plants from this older existing tank for this one, and I'm going to trim some plants out from another tank. This is the tank now 3 weeks later. Still need to put a lot more plants into the tank. I just took some cuttings from some of my other tanks and need to get more plants. I've dropped in some pink ram's horn snails. My blue ram's horn snails and red ram's horn snails have been doing really well for me, and just wanted to get another kind of coloration of them. And then I put in these water boatmen. Oh, there's one on top of one of the pink snails. Looking good. You can see it actively moving its front legs to gather any little bits of food that might be on this snail here. Convenient shot there. Happy to see it. Take another look at another one of the water boatmen down here on the bottom of the tank. A couple of them. They'll move their legs around, clean themselves, sift through the sand granules, looking for little bits of food. They're primarily algae eaters. I've left the light on in this new tank now for most nights, as well as the days, of course, in these first 3 weeks, and as is recommended so that the plants can get off to a really good start. There's a little bit of algae forming in places in the tank, but that is good because it's both normal and because the water boatmen feed on it. That is their food. And so this tank is my water boatman breeding tank. Girlfriend drank a bottle of wine, and so there's a cork floating in there. And partly because over on the other side I have some caddis flies. They have pupated, and so I'm expecting some adult caddis flies to come up to the surface, and they need a little perch there to hang out on. Might add a few more corks. Just a quick mention that there is this layer here, about an inch, and the water had evaporated and I refilled it, and the snails are going to work on cleaning this, but I may need to scrape it every once in a while also with a razor blade. Other than that, if any film builds up in the tank, I'll use one of the normal sponge scrapers. And so this is the tank. I'm going to put some more plants on it, and also going to add a lot more leaf litter in. These leaves here, the snails have been working on, and so in some cases the leaves down on the bottom are mere skeletons. These are leaves from other aquatic tanks that I've moved into this tank so that I can colonize it with the various bacteria and fungus that will help to build the ecosystem in this tank.